Hello. Hello. Oh, great. So nice. It's exactly the same configuration. Just didn't work that day. Oh, nice. Great. So shall I start? Okay, great. Can you see the presentation slide just before I changed? Okay, then I just start. Hello. Hi everyone. I am Dr. Satyagautam Madlamudi. I am a principal data scientist at Capillary Technologies. Today I'll be talking about problem solving with AI, particularly using search techniques and some of its applications. Hopefully after this short introduction, you'll be more interested in search and be able to apply in your own context. So brief background about me. I got my bachelor's and PhD degrees from IIT Kharagpur in 2008 and 13 respectively. And in between, I worked for a little while at Google, and then after my PhD at Intel Labs as part of Parallel Computing Lab. And then I did my postdoc at Arizona State University in AI, and currently I'm working as a principal data scientist at Capillary. So this is the outline of today's talk. Firstly, I'll just present the major themes in AI today, and then we'll dive into the search with an introduction and consider the specific problem statement that we'll focus on today, and then some algorithms to solve such problems, and then some applications where they can be used. Finally, we'll touch upon how what are the factors one should consider while building autonomous systems or agents. So these are the major themes in AI today as taken from last year's IJCAI conference, which is the flagship conference for AI, International Joint Conference on AI. So it consists of various interesting themes, autonomous agents and multi-agents, basically in a world where there are multiple agents are present, multiple intelligent systems are present, and they have to coexist and cater to one another needs, and sometimes may deal with opposing forces. And then uncertainty in AI, where a lot of probabilistic based reasoning is considered, and then knowledge representation and robotics and automated planning, which I'll touch upon a little bit at the end of the talk, and then state space search, which is the focus of today's talk, and then machine learning, which is pretty much everyone knows, and probably most people don't know the difference as to what else is there in AI apart from machine learning and so on. So let's get into today's talk. So what do we mean by problem solving? So basically it means in English, we have a problem and we want to solve it. Or we are in a certain state now and we want to accomplish something. Effectively saying that our current state is some A and we want to reach a state B, either by solving one of our problems or just by accomplishing something, or we are sometimes okay with reaching one of the several states S where we have some condition satisfied. This is like a very general setting. Maybe you can assume that right now the current state is, say, I am sad, and you want to reach a state where I'm happy. And how, what all needs to be taken care of in order for you to be happy, etc., we need to consider based on what we can do. So here the knowledge part is basically that what are the actions one can take, or what are the choices one can make, and what happens when those actions are taken or those choices are made. So if we are in a particular state, then if we take action A, what happens? Action B, what happens? What is the resulting state? If we know all that, then maybe we can search for a solution as to how to proceed from my current state to a state where I am happy, say. So this is basically the problem solving part. Any problem pretty much can be looked in this setting. That's why it's called a generic solution technique in order to do this problem solving. We are in state A and we want to reach some state B where our problems are solved and we are happy. And to find the solution from the current state to that state, how to achieve, is what we call as problem solving. And the techniques for solving it today we study under the heading of search. We search for solutions in this gamut of state space to reach where we want to reach. So if this is embedded in an autonomous system or agent, then we have made a pretty good agent, right? Because we know how to learn stuff about the world. We know things like, for example, what happens when I do this is something we can learn from data by our own experience or from experience of others. Okay, we have observed that in the past, if this was the state and this was applied, this is what was happening. So we kind of know in what states, when what actions are taken, what will happen. If we know all this and we have some goals in mind, and if we have a technique for formulating new solutions based on this knowledge. For example, nobody is telling us if I want to reach from state A to state X, there is no data point directly giving a solution as to how to reach there. But there are so many data points as to how to reach from A to B, then B to C, and C to X, and so on. So if we can formulate a solution on our own based on all this data, then we have a pretty good AI agent. Of course, there are the problems of what should be my goal and what is a good goal, what is not a good goal, and what is harmful and not. All those things, even I think humans sometimes are not very sure about. Many of the people are, even us several times are in a state where we are exactly, we are not always sure as to what we should accomplish or what problem should we solve. So that way, it's a reasonable amount of intelligence as long as if we can solve what the goals are given to us. Then, of course, the differentiating factor here is that apart from any other, say, optimization techniques or problem solving techniques, is that you can make dynamic adjustments. So let's say you have taken, you found a solution from state A to reach state X. And then after taking a couple of actions, you realized that for some reason your world has changed. Either your state has suddenly changed in an unexpected way, or your state transition functionality has changed in an unexpected way. You learned something new meanwhile. So then the solution philosophy will still work. You can, probably re-execute your algorithm or reconstruct from there onwards a new solution to still accomplish the goals. So that's what it makes as a very interesting and suitable technology for use in autonomous agents. So yeah, this slide again is explaining why search, is learning not enough, or is something else not enough? Why do we need to focus on search? Once again, the example being, we may have a lot of data points which tell us how to go from A to B, or A to K, K to F, K to P, and so on, but no data point which says directly how to go from A to B. That we need to construct ourselves using so many, simple hints, but seemingly disconnected hints, or in spread away, far away, needing a solution of length 100 or 200 or 1000 sometimes, right? So this exploration of, the knowledge and the resulting state space is what we study under search or state space search. Also, search has been used beyond, just in the application of AI itself. It's used to actually find the best model that fits a given data. That can be also looked as search as to if there are so many model configurations that are possible which can try to fit this data, which is the best fit. That is kind of a search in the space of model configurations. Also, the other way is also done, how to search best. Can we learn from past search simulations to figure out which areas, if searched first, will result in quick answers. So application of search in learning and application of learning in search were also explored in the past and are very interconnected. Let me just look if I have any questions so far. Okay, great. Hello, everyone. So we're just getting started, and let's see the problem statement of search. So this is how it looks like. Given an initial state, we are in a particular state, and we have a set of actions A, which can be performed. Let's say you can always assume like a robot in a room trying to reach from one point to another, and it can walk right, left, up, or something, things like that. And then we have the state transition information. For each state, if this action is applied, what will be the resulting state? If some other action is applied, what will be the resulting state, and so on. And finally, we want to reach a state where a certain goal condition G is satisfied. So our job is to basically find a sequence of actions that, when applied to the initial state S, will lead to some state where the given goal condition is satisfied. And then one may have additional requirements saying, I want a path with minimum length or minimum cost, where cost of each edge is also given apart from state transition. And then maybe some additional criteria. I want to visit these states before going to my goal, all sorts of things. So basically the problem statement being, given an initial state, give me a set of actions through which I can reach my goal condition. So how do we start? How do we solve this problem? So one exhaustive approach is basically, okay, I am at start state S and I have all these actions to take. So let me take all those actions. And then we know for each action what are the resulting states. And then, okay, keep them in a list and again take all the actions on all the states in the list. And then so on, right? So this will result in a exponential kind of a tree where, you will explore all possible combinations of, okay, for each state, all actions, what will happen. And at some point in time, you may get the state with any one of the states with satisfying the goal condition, if it's possible. Otherwise, either the state space may be exhausted, or sometimes you may go into infinite loop if not taken care. So one thing to note here is basically that the size of the search space here is exponential in nature, which is b power d if we consider b to be the branching factor, say number of different actions possible to take at each node, and d to be the depth of the solution or search space, whichever may be applicable. Okay, then, okay, this seems to be like an exponential problem. How do we, make it faster? One thing is obviously exploiting graph structure. Okay, we need not generate all children to be unrelated to each other. Actually, we may reach same state through multiple paths. Then, from that state onwards, it's the same world again. Once you reach that state, all the actions you take on that state will result in the same states. So you don't have to consider same state getting reached through 2 or 3 different paths as 3 different states. You can actually merge them all together and, consider the best path to that state. So this is how the scenario, right? One scenario is, let's say you visited a state and your path right now is worse than the path which that state was explored already through which, right? Then you can just ignore the new path and need not generate that state again. Or when you find a better path to an existing state, then actually you can update the parent of that already generated state to the new path, and then also re-expand it so that all the children know that there is this better path. So everybody can take advantage of that lower cost from start state if the cost matters. If cost doesn't matter, you can just always ignore whenever you find duplicate states. Okay, let me check if there are any questions so far. Okay, seem to be all good. Okay, so that's fine, but still, it looks like a exponential problem. How many duplicates can we have? After all, it is still b power d in the worst case. So another way is, can we use some heuristics? Instead of exploiting this tree in terms of either breadth first strategy or depth first strategy, can we do better? What if we know, that some of these states are better than the others, in the sense that some of these states offer more promise in terms of how soon can they reach goal state or how close they are to the goal state than some others. So if we have a way to capture this quantitatively, then we have some number with each state saying I am better than the rest. Then this allows us to expand these nodes in a best first manner rather than a breadth first or depth first. And then that is basically, the one holding the largest promise, we can start expanding, and then the next largest promise one, and so on. So this is like, for example, if we are trying to find a path in a grid world with obstacles, then we expect that the states on the paths with obstacles will have lesser promise compared to states without obstacles, and similar distance or displacement from the goal. Okay, we'll figure out more about how to design heuristic functions and example heuristic functions later. But now let's get started with one of the most popular algorithms, search algorithms in AI, which is A star. So A star is a very interesting and very efficient algorithm for doing state space search. It's, I think, even today used in lots of game environments of decent sizes to find solutions. So let's see how A star works. What A star does is that it computes promise for each node in terms of an F value, which is the sum of two functions, which is one is G value and one is H value. So what is G value is that it denotes the distance from the start node to the current node. So how many steps have you taken so far from the initial state to reach a certain current state? That is the G value of that state. Or what is the cost if that cost is given instead of steps? That information from the start state to the current state is captured as G value. And then H value, which is the heuristic function, is basically, it denotes how far do we think the goal node is from that state. So it's an estimate. We don't know exactly for sure how long it's going to take to reach goal state, any one of the goal states, but we can estimate. I think that, I'll reach goal state in 5 steps. And I have already spent, say, from initial state until now 10 steps. So my F value will become kind of 15 steps. So I'm trying to say that if you expand me, I can potentially give you a 15-step solution. Some other node may say that if you expand me, I can potentially offer you a 12-step solution, and so on. And then if you want to minimize cost, we try to, or even if we don't want to minimize cost but want to find a solution quickly, we generally want to expand the nodes offering more promise first, because they are saying that they are closer to the goal nodes, or overall they give us better quality solutions and also probably faster in terms of time to find the solution. So, and it uses basically two lists: open list, which contains initially the start state, and close list for maintaining what all have been already been expanded, which is initially empty. So it always chooses the most promising node from open list, which basically means that state is unexpanded, and it expands that state, namely, applies all possible actions on that state and generates all the resulting states, which are also called child generation or expansion. So basically, it takes the most promising node from the open list, which means unexpanded, and expands it and puts that node into closed list. That's what it keeps on doing. And whenever it finds duplicates, it resolves like we discussed earlier. If it finds better path, it will re-expand that node by bringing it to open list. If it finds worse path, then it will just let it be. It won't generate any new. So basically, it's trying to expand all nodes in the order of the promise by taking care of the duplicates without re-expansion. So if there was any solution, this will guarantee to find it, right? So we have discussed A star. Let me see if there are any questions. Okay, seem to be fine. Yeah, this is very interesting. There is this concept of admissibility of heuristics. So basically, we are using this heuristic function to estimate the distance from our current state to a goal state, right? If this function satisfies certain properties, then there are very interesting properties that the algo will give us. For example, if it satisfies certain properties, then A star will guarantee that it finds not only just a solution, but the optimal solution from the start state to a goal state satisfying the given condition. So what are those properties to be satisfied? So basically, a heuristic is called admissible when it never overestimates the distance to the goal node in case of a minimization problem. Let's say the actual distance from a state to a goal state is 10. Okay, some, we have already explored before, and we know that the best case is 10. And while actually first time exploring, we don't know that information, but we have this estimate function, right? If the estimate function always tells me some estimate below 10, and it does so for each of the states, then it's called admissible heuristic, because it's never stating anything more than the actual distance. So then basically A star guarantees that if you always explore most promising node first, the first goal node you are going to find is the one with optimal path cost or optimal cost of edges if cost of edges is given. And also one needs to satisfy the consistency condition, where basically the heuristic function has to of a certain state should be h value should be less than or equal to the cost to any of its successor plus the h value from successor itself. So there should be some consistency. If the successor is saying it will reach in say 8 steps and the cost to reach successor is 2 steps, then the current state has to give an estimate which is less than or equal to 10 steps. So if this admissibility and consistency conditions are satisfied, then A star basically guarantees that the first solution it finds will be optimal. Not only that, and it's also very efficient in terms of finding these solutions, in the sense A star says that any algorithm which promises to find optimal solutions has to expand at least as many number of nodes that A star expands. So these are very interesting properties, and actually the proofs are not that complex. You can see an introduction to AI textbooks by Stuart Russell or any other textbooks. They're fairly straightforward. But the main point here to note is also that a lot of times when people think of heuristic algorithms or heuristic search, they tend to quickly get into the notion that these algorithms must be giving approximate solutions. But the AI search algorithms which use heuristics are using them in a clever way such that they're still guaranteeing optimal solutions while reducing their search efforts. So by using heuristics that satisfy certain properties, these search algorithms are able to still guarantee optimality. It's kind of heuristics that still guarantee optimality, which is kind of a very contradiction in itself, but that's what it is. So if we use heuristics carefully and build them such that they satisfy some nice properties, then we are still guaranteed optimal solutions. Okay, no questions. Okay. Next is, okay, we have studied A star, but we have some heuristics. We have made the original exhaustive search much, much faster by using A star, but A star still tend to take long time if we give it very large or large problem instances, say some game like 24 sliding puzzle or something, which we'll discuss later on. So how can we make it even more faster? That's the question, right? Then one solution which has been explored a lot in the literature is what if we weigh the heuristics? We earlier had in A star f of a node given by g value plus h value. Now we are saying, you know, g plus some w into h, where w is typically greater than 1. So what this makes is that typically at the root of the search tree, g values are less because, you know, their distance from the initial node is less, and h values are more because, you know, it's reasonable to assume that they are far from goals. So then if we weigh those h values higher, all the nodes at near the root of the search tree will have higher f values, whereas the nodes relatively closer to the goal nodes, which have lower h values, get little affected by this w, so they will tend to have lower f values. And the more promising ones in case of minimization problems are always with lower f values. So all those nodes which are closer to goal nodes get prioritized for expansion. So this effectively makes the search more greedy and so, you know, faster, and also obviously suboptimal. It's no longer the case that the first solution found by this weighted A star algorithm is optimal. But yeah, there are proofs that it's bounded within W for a given W if the heuristic is admissible and so on. So that can be explored. But basically, this is a strategy to make search faster, wherein we are trying to make the search greedy by using a weight on the heuristic. That is the estimated distance between the current state and goal state. Okay. Let's look at another strategy to make search faster. Okay, we have seen A star, we have seen weighted A star, but there are not really any bounds on how many nodes these algorithms will expand or how much time will they take. So let's say I used g plus h in A star and g plus 1.2 into h in weighted A star. Neither of them really give a very good bound on the time or memory taken apart from the exponential bound which we originally had, which is order b power d. So can we have a, you know, very restricted and bounded search? Can we do that? So that's addressed by beam search, where it will expand the start state, consider BW most promising children of that state, which is called beam width. So it's just taking that BW children and expanding all their children, expanding all those nodes to generate all their children, and then only considers BW most promising of those and throws the rest of them away. So basically, it's just at each level, sort of, it's considering only BW most promising children. And let's say if we have to explore until depth D, then you know that exactly BW into D nodes are going to be explored. And exactly those many nodes are going to be stored in memory. So you have very good grip on how much memory this algorithm is going to take and how much time this algorithm is going to take. Obviously, if you got a solution, well and good. Otherwise, you know, uh, you just don't have a solution, but you know that in a fixed time and memory. Maybe you can try with a larger beam width if we failed, and so on. But you exactly know how long each iteration is going to take and how much memory it's going to take. So this is helpful in a lot of cases, as we'll see. Okay, so we have seen A star, which guarantees optimal solution, and we have seen a couple of ways to make it faster by sacrificing an optimality. So the next question is, can I have an algorithm which gives an approximate solution quickly? And then if I have more time, maybe can it just, continue and give me better and better solutions instead of just stopping with an approximate solution? So that class of algorithms are called anytime algorithms, where an algorithm will try to produce a good quality solution quickly, say within seconds or even milliseconds, and then when more and more time is given, it keeps producing better and better solution, and based on the algorithm, it will stop after reaching a quality bound or a memory bound, or it will just guarantee optimal solution after a long time. Let's see if we have any questions so far. Okay, seems to be all good. Okay, so how do we design these anytime algorithms? Okay, let's see with what we got. We have gone through weighted A star. So one idea would be, okay, we start with a large weight on weighted A star. That means very greedy algorithm. So it will quickly return a solution. And then we decrease the weight slightly and rerun. So it will give slightly better solution. If it doesn't give, then we'll just use the previous solution as for this iteration as well. So slowly decrease weights, and hopefully we'll get better and better solutions. And we definitely know that when the weight reaches 1, it becomes similar to A star, and therefore it gives optimal solution. So that's one way to design an anytime algorithm. It's actually one of the first ways explored. It's called anytime weighted A star. And then obviously, why do you have to start from scratch in each iteration? You can reuse the previous search effort by keeping track of exactly which nodes are already expanded with previous weights. Node expansion is node expansion irrespective of what weight it is expanded with, right? Its children are there. So you don't have to re-expand those nodes with new weights. So that can be kept track of to save a lot of duplicate search effect, and it clearly improves the effort a lot. So if you start with a high weight and reduce the weights gradually and reuse the previous search effect carefully by keeping track of which are already expanded, that is a very good solution, and it's basically called ARA star, anytime restricted A star, which is a famous and one of the state-of-the-art algorithms. What else? How can we build anytime algorithms? Let's see the other idea we explored. We have this beam search, and we know that if we use a small beam width, it exploits a small number of nodes. If we use larger beam width, it expands more nodes, and so on. So here, once again, you can basically iterate with beam width. Start with maybe 1 or 10 or some good starting point, 100, and then increase the beam width by 10, 20, whatever you want to keep as step. And as it expands and searches more and more search space, it will, naturally find better solutions. That's another anytime algorithm. And there are many more. These are just some basic ideas which I want to cover. Okay, let's just consider one more anytime algorithm, which is a very recent algorithm which our group has published, proposed and published recently in about 2013 or so. It's called anytime path search. So its philosophy is very close to beam search, where we do a lot of optimizations as to avoiding re-expansions and all of that, which ARA star, etc. do. So what it takes as parameter input is that pack size similar to the beam width BW that we saw earlier. And the first iteration of the algorithm is same as that of beam search. Basically start with your start node, expand its k most promising nodes, and then expand k most promising of those nodes, and so on until you've reached the depth limit or found the solution, right? And then for the next iteration, usually beam search would have ended there. It has pruned all the other nodes and it has exhausted its beam width. So it would have ended. So anytime pack search, on the other hand, doesn't end, and neither it prunes any of the ignored nodes that beam search would have pruned. It would have kept track of all those. Okay, whatever are not expanded, I'll keep in some suspend list, let's say. And whatever I have expanded, I'll keep in close list. So when open list becomes empty after the first iteration, then I look at my suspend list. Okay, these are all the nodes which I have not expanded because of my pack size limit. Let me take the k most promising nodes from that suspend list. Okay, it takes those k most promising nodes as seeds for the next iteration, and then expands all of them, and then again proceeds similar to the first iteration where k most of those children are taken, others are kept in suspend list. So basically in each iteration it's expanding kind of with k seed nodes, the k most promising seed nodes which were earlier suspended, and it tries to go down the depth of the search tree with that k beam width sort of. So it's an anytime algorithm because it finds a solution in some iteration, and in the future iterations it can only get better, right? If at all it finds any higher cost solution, then it will just simply ignore it. So also, if memory is not a problem for that particular problem instance, because we are not ignoring any nodes while expansion, we are always keeping track of them in suspend list. Eventually, it will find the optimal solution because we are exploring all the search paths possible. So that's an anytime search algorithm which guarantees to find a good solution quickly and then improves upon it until either the memory limit is reached, or if it's not reached, guarantees to find an optimal solution. Let's see if we have any questions. No. Good. Okay, now let's look at a couple of applications. Okay, we have this wonderful theory about how one can start from any state and by using all the actions and the state transition information reach whatever goal conditions are possible. Now, how do we apply? So let's say, take any gaming application, for example. Recently, as many of you may know, Google's AlphaGo used a combination of machine learning and search to beat Lee Sedol, who is a champion of Go game. So there also, once again, as we discussed, one has to learn about what happens when certain paths are taken or certain actions are taken. That can be done through machine learning, but you cannot really learn everything from machine learning. Imagine if you want to learn like what is the best sequence of actions possible in which nobody can beat me. That is like an extremely hard learning problem. So that's where all or any practical autonomous agent or system would have to basically combine a learning framework with a reasoning framework, some sort of problem solving framework such as search, so that you can learn until a certain reasonable state, and then you can actually explore the state space from there onwards to find solutions which may not be directly in the data. So let's take this example of sliding tile puzzle. So these are typically the goal configurations of the sliding tile puzzles. I don't know how many of you may have played such games before, but basically there is this empty tile, and these are all different numbered tiles, and you can move them around. So this tile can be slide into this empty place, and then this will become empty, and you can slide one of this or the one here to back to this, and the corresponding tile position will become empty, and so on. So initially some random configuration of this puzzle is given, and one needs to find a sequence of moves that will make this goal state possible at the end. So the size of state space here is very large. It's for an n sliding tile puzzle, let's say it's n plus 1 factorial by 2, where n is this 15 sliding tile or 24 sliding tile puzzle. Let's say for 24, actually it's 10 to the power of 24. That means if we explore all nodes, all states, then blindly with the exhaustive search at say 1 node per nanosecond speed, then it will take about 245 million years to explore everything. So it's clearly not an option. We have to build intelligent heuristics and algorithms to find the solution from any given state to that goal configuration. Also, I don't know how many of you have focused on this problem a lot. Any random state cannot reach this goal state. Basically, the sliding tile puzzle has two solution spaces and two halves. So this total n plus 1 factorial space can be divided into two halves, and only one half of the states can reach this goal state. So that's another thing. So if somebody was randomly took out the tiles by force without sliding them, and then just gave you a new random configuration, there not exist any path from that configuration to this particular goal state, because that configuration may be in the other half of the space. Anyway, so okay, here let's identify what are the basic things that we wanted for the search to solve. Start state, which is fairly straightforward, it's given. And what would be the children? Children would be the configurations resulting from moving into empty space from one of the neighboring tiles, right? So either this 1 can be moved into the empty space, or 4 can be moved into this space. Or equivalently saying this empty space could be moved into this 4 position, or this empty space could be moved into 1 position. So basically that empty space going left, right, up or down, taking into account whether there is a border or if the move is possible. And goal condition, it's given again, it's this particular state. And now we have to figure out what is a good heuristic. Let's say I am in a certain state at some point in time. How many moves do I think are needed to reach the goal state? So here basically one good estimate, a reasonable estimate, is basically the sum of Manhattan distances. So that is for each tile, let's say the tile numbered 1, if it's not in position 1,2 where it should be, maybe it's in position 3,2, then the Manhattan distance would be 2, right? Like that, for every tile, it ultimately has to reach its destination position. So at least that many moves would be needed for that tile to reach that position. So if we sum up all those Manhattan distances for each tile to be in its destination position, then it's a good heuristic. And there are also proofs that that's actually inadmissible too. That means it never overestimates the actual number of moves needed to reach the goal state. At least thus many number of moves are required for reaching the goal state from the current state. So little bit of results. Basically, the anytime pack search, which I have discussed above, with this simple Manhattan distance heuristic, finds more than 90% optimal solutions. Like for example, if the optimal solution was of length 100, it will find a solution within say 110 moves or so in less than just 20 minutes. And any solution, if you just want a sequence of moves reaching from start state to goal state, it will just find in seconds. So it's pretty fast. Look, so basically we have avoided this 245 million years of time that we may have to wait by designing good algorithms and heuristics. Okay, let's look at another application, which is a robotics application where we want to basically plan how the robotic arm trajectory should move. So as you can see, basically the robotic arm has a number of joints, and each of those joints can move in a number of ways. Basically, the degree of freedom at each of the joints is given, and this end effector is in a certain configuration to begin with, and usually the target is basically to make that end effector to reach to a target place. Maybe it's resting initially, it wants to pick this door handle, so you need to basically come up with a plan as to which joints need to move in which way so that it reaches that handle and grips it, right? So that figure, and actually the software source is available from CMU ROS library. You can search for Dr. Maxim Likashev. He maintains a pretty good source of search-based planning algorithms for robotic arm trajectory planning. And basically, as I said, the objective is to move the end effector from a certain initial location to a certain goal location, like gripping a handle of the door or things like that. So the library basically contains some algorithms to do that, and with 6 degrees of freedom, 20 degrees of freedom instances, and that particular library has 2D movement. Say in a 2D space, the end effector needs to reach from this to this, and there are some obstacles in between, so the arm has to go around those obstacles to finally reach where it's trying to reach. And again, so basically we know the start state, which is the initial position, and we know a goal state that is given, and we also know the state space, the obstacles, etc. What happens when certain action is taken, certain movement is performed at a certain joint, what will be the resulting effect. So we know the state transition. So if we have this much, basically we can write functions about what would be the children at each state and so on. Once those are done, we have to basically design a nice heuristic so that the search can be made efficient. And what would be a good heuristic here? It's basically what is the shortest distance from the end effector to the given goal position, assuming that there are no obstacles, because if there were no obstacles, it would have gone in those number of moves. Obstacles can only make it longer. It cannot become shorter in presence of obstacles. So we are basically once again designing an admissible heuristic where we know for sure that our estimate is, is a non-overestimating one compared to the actual distance. So once we have this children generation and heuristic and state transition information, you just have to run one of the algorithms and it will just automatically find a solution for you as to what should be the first movement and so on. Okay, so now let's run some code. I will actually put the code up on GitHub after cleaning up something. Right now there is nothing there, but I'll soon put it up. But I'll just show you executing of a code on this 24 puzzle where basically this is the empty space and we want to reach this goal state, this one. So we want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, first empty space, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So here 1 is here, 2 is here, 3 is here, 4 is here, and it's one of the hard instances taken from 24 puzzle benchmarks. So ultimately 1 has to reach here, 2 has to reach here, 3 has to come here, and so on. And this empty space should be here. So I have kept ready some code to run. Let's see if we have any questions. No. So, okay, I have fully kept ready, compiled everything. So let's run that anytime pack search algorithm we discussed. See, within seconds, basically, it just gives so many solutions. So this is an anytime algorithm running, and each of this is a solution. So uh, let's consider basically this one. It's saying, okay, first move the empty space down, then to right, then to right, then to up, left, down, and so on. Basically, if we make all these moves on the empty space, then we'll reach the goal state in about 377 moves, which is 25% optimal. Since this is a benchmark, we know that the optimal solution is at 95 moves. So if we actually see here, within some few seconds, 44 seconds to be exact, it found a solution of length with 141 moves. Whereas the optimal solution is about 95 moves, which was found after running a memory bounded algorithm for about 1 month or so. So this one is finding a solution of 141 moves within less than a minute, right? Within 44 seconds. So these are like very good practical algorithms to have, the anytime heuristic search algorithms. Especially since all these state space search algorithms can take into account dynamic changes that may occur in the robotic world while it's already taken some steps and so on. Then it can quickly recompute and get a alternative route, things like that, in order to accomplish goals, which is the major difference, for example, compared to any of the static local search kind of algorithms or anything, where it's much harder. Okay. So hope that's clear. Let's see. Okay. I guess there are no questions on the execution of the code. I'll make that code available, and you can change the state transition setup and goal conditions, all those as per your own application domain, and it will just produce solutions using those algorithms automatically. So those four are the key: the start state, the state transition, and the actions which can be taken, which defines the child generation, and the goal condition checking, and then some reasonable heuristic as to what would be an estimate. So these heuristics need not be always admissible. They can be inadmissible. For example, they may overestimate the actual distance. As long as they are giving a good estimate of how far the goal should be, it will still give very good solutions. Okay, now let's briefly go over as to what are the factors that one need to consider while building autonomous systems and agents. So I don't know whether how many of you know that the Mars rover, which was sent to Mars for exploration, actually had AI planning and search system inbuilt for generating its daily activities as to what are all the actions it needs to do in which sequence to explore the Mars. Basically, they used an AI planning and search system back in 2004 itself, deployed it, and it actually worked on Mars. So as practical as it can be, right? And then, okay, let's go to designing of autonomous systems. So basically, thinking in terms of state space helps, like what constitutes my state space, what are the changes that are possible, what are the actions that we can take, what are the choices that can be made, what can change on the fly, what can we learn on the fly, and so on, when to reroute and when to proceed with the current plan, all those things. So build a state space form the learning algorithms by trying to learn the state transitions and so on, maybe path transitions if possible. And then after a certain amount of learning, you know, plug in the search to basically uh, find solutions on its own, and then both can go on. And then what is a good heuristic? So basically, given that we have very good search algorithms which can actually do quick exploration of most promising nodes and so on, heuristics need not be very complex. They can be kept very generic, saying, okay, Manhattan distance, for example. With that, we have achieved solutions very quickly, right? As we just ran the code, it was giving like 10, 15 solutions within 30, 40 seconds. So, and the heuristic we used is very, very basic one. We just said, okay, just, for each misplaced tile, just compute the Manhattan distance and sum them up. There is nothing hard about that. So any basic estimates as to reasonable estimates as to how far the goal node is good enough. And more importantly, it's not exactly about the it's the accuracy matters, and what's probably more important is relatively how good is it. Like, am I making with this estimate a bad node a good node and a good node a bad node, or am I keeping the relatively same? What's a good node is shown good by this heuristic, and what's a bad node is being shown bad by this heuristic. As long as that is satisfied, most algorithms will actually do well. And of course, benchmark with many anytime algorithms. Some domains respond to some anytime algorithms very well. So for example, we discussed anytime weighted A star, anytime restricted A star, and anytime pack search and so on. There are some more available in the literature. So you can benchmark on your application domain which ones is best suitable. And then of course, we are talking about solving one application domain till now, for an introduction. So what if, my autonomous agent suddenly enters a unknown world tomorrow? Suddenly it learns new kind of states and new kind of rules. I may not be able to, fully redesign it there. It should automatically adjust itself. So basically what we are looking for is something like if we had a generic framework in the system or robot, which takes anything under the framework, like if we followed something like a domain description language, where, okay, my state is input in terms of Boolean literals, true or false of these literals. And my actions will make some of these literals false, some of these true, and so on. And I will learn what all the actions possible, etc. on the fly. Things like that. As long as it's conforming to certain language restrictions, for example, one of the famous languages is planning domain description language, then you can just have that planning framework inbuilt into your system, and it can handle any domain which it may have never seen in the past automatically, because that domain is conforming to that language description, planning domain. And the heuristics will be automatically optimized for that particular domain. And all those, how to optimize different heuristics for a new domain following this PDDL framework, and all those are, well researched and well established. So we don't have to worry about designing heuristics or anything. We just have to figure out what are the state transitions properly, and how to make that domain conformant to this PDDL framework. So then we can basically get rid of designing heuristics and so on. Then some other possible paths are like, what if there are probabilistic outcomes? I actually don't know. It's not for me always the case that when an action, X is taken on state A, it will go to state B. With 50% probability, it may go to state B, and with 50% it will go to state C. So if your world has this probabilistic outcomes, then you may want to read about Markov decision processes and Markov decision planning and all those things, where how to define solution strategies in such scenarios is explored and algorithms are given. And also you may have things like observability issues. So you not only don't know what will happen when this action is taken, it may either result in state B or state C. You are also not sure whether you are in state A. You may actually, you know that you are in one of the states A, D, or E. You don't know exactly where you are. That's called observability issue. I cannot observe myself clearly. I may be in one of these three states. That's how it is. So then you can basically explore POMDPs, which is partially observable Markov decision process, where you are initially in a certain state, or you believe that you are in a certain set of states, and then you can take these actions, which may take you to these certain other sets of states probabilistically, and how to formulate solution strategies in such scenarios and so on are well explored in POMDPs. So basically all the conferences and different themes that I have given from IJCAI 16 at the beginning will help in answering a lot of these questions. So some references here, the famous AI IMA textbook from Peter Norvig and Stuart Russell, and then some literature on anytime heuristic search and how to use them in intelligent systems. Our paper on anytime pack search, and the Mars planning paper if you are interested in it, and then planning tutorial using search, which was given in AAA 2015, which is another one of the top AI conferences. So yeah, feel free to contact me if you need more resources or if you have any questions. I can take some questions now. Okay, I have a question which is saying, what search techniques do you not recommend? Okay, so not recommended ones are typically where one is not using any heuristics and trying to explore exhaustively all possible combinations, which is a simple no, because even if it were giving you solutions, they are more likely to be far from optimal solutions. And also probably you may want to avoid search techniques which take a long time to give solutions, or which do not say anything about the quality of the solutions that they have produced. So if quality of the solutions is is something that you care about, then probably you want to build admissible heuristics and get an estimate of how good a solution is and so on. Other than that, yeah, it depends on the application domain, whether you have dynamic changes. If your application domain is such that state transition information may change on the fly, then you have to have search techniques which are state space related and which should take into account replanning kind of scenarios on the fly. So I hope that answers the question. If there were any other particular things, I would have commented on why it should be or should not be used in a particular scenario. Okay. Okay, I have another question from Dimitro Filatov. Could you tell a bit more about the beginning of your career as a data scientist and machine learning specialist? Okay. Yeah, this is very interesting. And how have you got into the field, and what suggestions do you have for people who are just starting? Example, specific problems, fields of application you suggest to focus on. Okay. Yeah. Data science, I have been working on data mining kind of problems during my PhD in one of the sponsored projects from Xerox, where we have explored spatio-temporal data mining and so on. So it's more about pattern mining, things like that. And then obviously I have been teaching assistant in the AI courses and all those, which have covered machine learning and all related components of AI basically. So that introduction was always there. And Particularly, I think for as far as advice is concerned, I think a good place to start is some nice online courses like Dr. Andrew Ng's course on Coursera on machine learning. That's a good starting point. And then there is Kaggle, which gives nice problem sets. Studying the solution techniques of those problem sets is very helpful. And probably the most of all is understanding what we are trying to optimize, like what is the ultimate goal that one is trying to solve, and how the optimization you are trying to design while learning is going to help that business goal. So if we can basically understand how to you know uh, set up the problem itself, like what to learn and what to predict. Say usually most of the data science problems actually have some sort of predictive modeling stuff, or some parts have simple data analytics. But the question is always about first figuring out what problem we want to solve, and then figuring out what are the best possible models one can use. And further, actually, the most important thing is, when do we know that we have gotten the best out of the model? So a lot of people try with different models with some parameter changes and then give up. Okay, this is the best I think this model is going to give. But actually, there are so many resources. Like Andrew Ng also talks about how to plot these learning curves, where what is my training error, what is my cross validation error, what is my test error, how are they increasing, decreasing with the parameter changes. So am I overfitting, underfitting, or do I need more data? So all those actions can be, decisions can be taken using those learning curves. So I think mastering those techniques and figuring out how to get the best out of each model or algorithm makes a lot of difference. So I think that is one of the keys. And obviously, after some amount of practice, you will know which algorithms are good for which kind of problems. For example, you can, let's say you are using decision trees or boosting bagging techniques. They always need some sort of decision points on each of the features. And if your features are such that those decision points somehow don't exist, they are too convoluted or things like that, that means those features with that boosting or decision tree techniques are not good enough. Either you have to use some other techniques, or you have to build features where there exist these decision points for those boosting decision tree based techniques to succeed. So you have to kind of mentally run through the model on the data set. Okay, if it were going to get the best out of this data set, and this model is basically going to work on decision points, will it be able to figure out the decision points on the features I have provided? If it's not possible, that means that algorithm is not going to do its best. Then you have to basically build certain features out of the data set or out of your initial features to create these new richer features where those decision points are available. So for each model, for each algorithm, you have to think of like a mental run through of that algorithm on the data and see if the possibility of finding a model exists or not. If it doesn't exist, you have to basically enrich the feature set, or you have to pursue some other algorithms. Yeah. So basically, need to get a good sense of why this algorithm can or will make sense on this data set, and whether we have provided all the possible assistance for this algo to succeed on this data set with these features. And then once that is done, are we getting the best out of it by doing learning curves and so on? So this analysis, usually helps one to get a very good grip on building machine learning and data science models. Yeah, and then of course lots of thinking about real world problems and practicing always helps. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Dimitro. My pleasure. um, so I think we have covered all the questions so far. Okay. So, thank you very much, everyone, for listening to this. If you have any more questions, feel free to contact me. You can search my name on web and you'll get my contacts. Yeah. Yeah, sure. I actually, these are the slides, and I'll put the code up soon. If any of you are interested, you can just contact me also. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.